Welcome to Mastering Mystical Mysteries, where AI meets the ancient wisdom of esoteric literature. In each episode, we explore spiritual and occult books, revealing hidden truths through advanced AI analysis. Whether you are a seasoned seeker or simply curious about the mystical, we uncover knowledge from across the world's traditions. Today, we are diving into another thought-provoking text filled with spiritual insight and occult wisdom. If you enjoy our journey into the unknown, please remember to subscribe, comment, and like to stay connected with future revelations. Let us begin.
All right, let's dive into the world of Masonic words and rituals. You know, all those whispered secrets, all those hidden meanings. We're going deep.
Yeah, we're talking centuries of intrigue. And luckily, we've got a pretty amazing guide for this one.
Oh, yeah, we've got Albert Pike's The Book of the Words, 1871. Talk about a blast from the past.
And he holds nothing back, right? He's practically handing us the keys to the Masonic vault.
It's like he's saying, all right, you want to know the secrets? Here they are.
But to add another layer to all this, we're not just looking at Pike. We've got your research to bring into the mix as well.
Yeah, because no good deep dive is complete without a little extra intrigue, right?
That's like we've got this old weathered map from Pike, and now we're layering your own intuition and knowledge on top of it.
I love that. It's like a multi-dimensional puzzle we're piecing together. But to get started, let's rewind the clock a bit.
Way back.
Way back, like ancient Egypt and the Middle East back. The amount of Masonic symbolism that traces back to those cultures just blew my mind.
It's not just a casual hat tip to the past. It's like those ancient traditions are woven into the very fabric of Masonic thought.
Okay, so walk me through it. Where do we even begin?
Well, let's start with something iconic. The pillars of Solomon's temple. Akin and Boaz. Even Pike himself dives deep on these.
Right, Jachin and Boaz, but we're not talking literally, right? I mean, it's got to be about more than just two pillars.
Exactly. Think of them as symbols of a deeper concept. Achin, on the right, it embodies potent, prepared creation ready to receive the spark.
And Boaz standing opposite.
That left-hand pillar represents the strength, the firmness, the active force of creation itself. Imagine it like this.
Like a cosmic dance between two opposing forces.
Exactly. And these forces, this dualism, it pops up again and again, not just in Masonic thought, but across ancient traditions. Think about the Egyptian god Horus.
Horus, okay, yeah, a figure of immense power. Didn't you say he also connects to Hiram, the Masonic figure, right?
Right. And it's not a coincidence. Hiram's story, the way it's told in Masonic rituals, it echoes these ancient myths of death and resurrection.
Like a symbolic journey of transformation.
Yeah, and it's a theme that pops up again and again in Masonic teachings, this idea of enlightenment through trials and challenges. But let's shift gears for a second. I want to talk about the power of names, especially when it comes to the divine.
Oh, yeah. That's something I was really curious about when reading through Pike. He really hammers home this point that names, especially God's name, have real power.
Right, and it's not a new idea. Many traditions believe that even speaking the true name of God aloud is dangerous, even forbidden.
Like you're invoking something beyond human comprehension.
Exactly. And this is where that whole Masonic quest for the lost word comes in. It's about recognizing that some truths are just too profound for our everyday language.
So it's more about a spiritual seeking than a literal word hunt.
Exactly. And this leads us to another point that Pike brings up about Masonic language. He says it's often intentionally obscure. It's meant to veil the truth.
Like a protective measure?
Partly, yeah. But it's also about revealing truth gradually. Like you have to prove yourself worthy of uncovering deeper layers of meaning. And when it comes to linguistic veiling, Pike points to the word Kadesh as a perfect example.
Kadesh! Oh yeah, that one's loaded with historical baggage, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It immediately evokes the fall of the Knights Templar, all those secrets fiercely guarded, often at great cost. And then on the flip side, you've got this other phrase Pike throws in the mix. Inveni verbum in ore leones.
Now, my Latin is a little rusty, but doesn't that mean thou shalt find the word in the lion's mouth?
You got it. And boy, is that a phrase full of symbolism. Pike actually links it to the idea of finding a lost key, but it's open to interpretation.
So it could represent rediscovering lost knowledge, or maybe even just that aha moment when something finally clicks.
Exactly. And that search for meaning, for hidden connections, it leads us to another one of Pike's favorite topics, the Kabbalah.
Oh yeah, the Kabbalah. That's a whole other rabbit hole, isn't it? I have to admit, some of it went a bit over my head.
Well, it can definitely get pretty complex. But the basic idea is that the universe is made up of these emanations from the divine. They're called Sephiroth.
Sephiroth. Okay, so like attributes of God. But how many are we talking about here?
There are 10 in total, but for our purposes, Pike focuses on just a few that are especially relevant to Masonic degrees.
All right, so let's break down these key Sephiroth. Where do we start?
At the top, of course, with Keter, the crown.
Okay, the crown. I'm intrigued already.
It represents the unknowable essence of God,
Yeah.
the very first emanation, the source of everything.
So something beyond human comprehension, something we can only try to grasp at.
Exactly. It's a reminder that there are some mysteries we might never fully unravel. But then, from that unknowable essence, we get the next Sephira, Chokmah, often translated as wisdom.
So if Keter is the unmanifested source, is Chokmah like the first spark of creation, the divine impulse to make something new?
Beautifully put. And from that spark, we get the third Sephira, Bina.
Bina, what does that one represent?
Bina is understanding. It's where that divine wisdom, that creative force of Chokmah, starts to take shape and manifest in the world.
So it's like the blueprint, the plan that emerges from that initial spark.
Exactly. And through Bina, we start to see how that divine plan unfolds, how that spark of creation turns into the world around us.
Wow, okay, so we've got the unknowable source, the creative spark, and then the plan coming together. 3 Sephiroth, each playing a crucial role. But how does this all tie back to Freemasonry, to those rituals and symbols? I'm guessing Pike has some thoughts on that.
Oh, you better believe it. And trust me, it's where things get really fascinating. You know, it's funny how these Sephiroth, especially Chokmah and Bina, they actually connect to another layer of Masonic symbolism. Do you remember those excerpts you sent me about the spiritual celestial cube?
Oh, right. And that whole bit about the one only thing, I felt like I was deciphering some kind of ancient riddle.
And that's no coincidence.
Yeah.
That's because it all ties back to alchemy. Pike really goes in depth about how Masonic symbolism intertwines with alchemical thought.
So we're not just talking about turning lead into gold here, although I have to admit that part's always been pretty cool to think about.
Well, who wouldn't want to stumble upon the Philosopher's Stone, right? But alchemy, at its core, it's all about transformation. It's about purification, about refining something into its best possible form.
Sounds familiar. Almost like the journey of a master mason, wouldn't you say?
Exactly. But how do the Sephiroth fit into all of this? We were talking about them more in the context of the Kabbalah.
Yeah, it's like we're jumping between these different traditions, trying to piece it all together.
And that's what makes it so interesting. Each tradition adds another layer of meaning. Think of it this way. Imagine the alchemical process as climbing a ladder, each rung representing a stage in this transformation.
Okay, so we're climbing this ladder. I'm with you.
Now, picture those key Sephiroth on this ladder. At the very top, you have Keter. Remember, the unknowable essence of God.
Right, the source of everything.
That represents the ultimate goal of the alchemist, that perfect state, that divine perfection they're striving towards.
So kind of like finding the philosopher's stone.
Exactly. But you need something to drive you up that ladder, right? That's where Chokmah comes in. Divine wisdom, the driving force, the inspiration that fuels the alchemical work.
And to keep that fire going, you need Bina, right? Divine understanding.
Exactly. It's the process itself, the experimentation, the careful observation. It's about actively engaging with the work, not just blindly following a formula. It's really quite fascinating how these ideas all connect, don't you think?
It really highlights how much Masonic teachings emphasize knowledge and the pursuit of truth. But it's not all just heady concepts and abstract ideas, is it? I mean, Pike also talks about how these words reflect real historical events, like even political maneuvering within Masonic circles. It's kind of a wild ride.
Oh, absolutely. It reminds us that these symbols, they're not static. They've been debated, reinterpreted, even fought over for centuries. Remember that word we talked about earlier? Shibboleth.
Shibboleth, yeah, the one that was used as a test of loyalty during those historical conflicts. Talk about high stakes.
Exactly. A simple word, but it becomes loaded with meaning because of the political climate. Pike even suggests that it might have been used as a secret code among Masons.
Wow. It's like a whole other layer of secrecy. It makes you wonder what other hidden influences might have shaped these traditions over the years.
It's a reminder that we're constantly adding our own interpretations to these symbols, even today. But speaking of powerful figures, we've touched on the god Horus and his connection to Hiram Abiff a bit. But why do you think Pike puts so much emphasis on those two figures in particular? What do you think he sees in that parallel?
Well, I think he recognized a powerful connection that speaks to the ancient roots of Masonic symbolism. Both Horus and Hiram, they represent this idea of a divine being who dies violently but then is resurrected.
And that resonates with the Masonic journey, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. The symbolism is so strong. You symbolically die to your old self and then are reborn as a master mason.
And by connecting that experience to Horus, to these ancient Egyptian myths, it reinforces that these ideas have been passed down, reinterpreted, and kept alive for centuries.
It's almost like a thread connecting us back to those ancient mysteries. But it also suggests a challenging, even dark side to this Masonic journey, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's not meant to be easy. Pike is very upfront about the challenges, even the dangers, that come with seeking knowledge and truth. It takes courage to confront your own limitations, to face those shadows within yourself.
It's like a trial by fire, a necessary darkness before you can step into the light.
Exactly. And this brings us back to Kadesh. It's a reminder that sometimes upholding your beliefs, seeking truth, it comes at a cost. There are sacrifices involved.
It's a sobering thought, but I think an important one. It makes you wonder how those words, those symbols, might have offered strength to those who came before us, especially during times of persecution.
Right, they serve as a powerful reminder that we're part of something bigger than ourselves, that we're connected to this long lineage of truth seekers, all striving for something more.
It's like these words and symbols, they're like a secret language passed down through the ages. A way for those who came before us to share their wisdom, their struggles, their hopes for the future. But we have to be ready to listen, right?
Exactly. We have to be open to receiving those messages.
Yeah.
And that's where Pike's emphasis on language, on really understanding the weight of these words, comes in. He's not just talking about communication, is he? It's about something deeper.
Right. He's saying that language can actually shape the way we think, the way we see the world. He even suggests it can bring us closer to the divine. And he gets so specific, too. It's not just about grand ideas like the word. He's breaking down individual words, like we saw with Jachin and Boaz, finding these hidden meanings that most of us would just glance over.
It's like he's uncovering this hidden history of language itself,
Yeah.
showing us how these words we use every day, they have these ancient roots, these echoes of wisdom passed down through generations.
Like a linguistic detective, tracing a word's journey through time, uncovering all these surprising connections.
Exactly. And for Pike, this wasn't just some intellectual exercise. It was a spiritual practice. He truly believed that by understanding the deeper meaning of words, we could connect more deeply with ourselves, with each other, even with something greater than ourselves.
It reminds me of those ancient mantras, the idea that repeating certain sounds can have a transformative effect.
And I think Pike would argue that Masonic rituals, with their specific words and phrases spoken with intention and purpose, can have that same kind of power.
It's like they're tapping into something ancient, something primal within us. But it's interesting because we're talking about these lofty ideals, this ancient wisdom, this connection to the divine. But Freemasonry, at the end of the day, it's a human institution, right? And humans are, well, let's just say we're not perfect.
That's a really important point. It's easy to get caught up in the grandeur, in the symbolism, and forget that there are real people behind it all. People with flaws and shortcomings, just like anyone else.
So how do we reconcile those two things? How do we hold on to these high ideals while acknowledging the messy reality of human nature?
Well, I think Pike would say that's the ongoing challenge, isn't it? He acknowledges that Freemasonry, like any human endeavor, is susceptible to corruption, to ego, to people seeking power for the wrong reasons. And he's pretty blunt about it, too. He constantly reminds his readers that tradition for tradition's sake is meaningless. It's about striving for something more.
So it's not about blindly following the rules, but about constantly questioning, constantly pushing ourselves to be better.
Exactly. He challenged his fellow Masons to never become complacent, to always be working on themselves, to hold each other accountable. Because for Pike, that journey of self-improvement, it never really ends.
It's not about reaching some perfect state of enlightenment and then just kicking back. It's about continual growth, continual refinement.
Exactly. And he believed that journey was made stronger, more meaningful when it was done within a supportive community.
That's a really powerful idea, that we can achieve more together than we ever could alone.
And Pike envisioned that sense of brotherhood, extending beyond the walls of the lodge, connecting people from all walks of life, all backgrounds, working together for the common good.
It's a powerful vision, and even if you're not a Mason, I think those are principles we can all get behind. Knowledge, wisdom, service to others. That's a pretty solid foundation for anyone to build on.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that's what makes exploring these Masonic teachings through the lens of Pike's work so fascinating. It challenges us to think critically, to examine our own beliefs, and to strive for something more.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? From ancient Egypt to the Kabbalah, From alchemy to the power of names, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
And we've just barely scratched the surface. Pike's The Book of the Words is filled with so many fascinating insights, and I encourage everyone listening to seek it out and continue exploring.
So, to our listeners, we leave you with this. What symbols or phrases resonated with you? What ancient wisdom might you carry with you into your own life? How might these teachings, these symbols, help you navigate the complexities of the world today? Keep those questions in mind as you continue your own exploration.
Keep asking questions, keep digging deeper, keep seeking out new perspectives. The journey of discovery never really ends, does it?
Never. And who knows what hidden truths you might uncover along the way.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring.